What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Cash Critic video. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you all for the support. I highly appreciate it each and every day. I truly do. So this is specifically my pre-fight predictions regarding UFC 281, right? It's a big one. It's a big one. There are a lot of good fights going on tonight, and I'm extremely excited for them and to watch them too. So I'm going to give my pre-fight predictions. Maybe this will help you out regarding your betting odds too if you guys are into that. So just keep that in mind. And keep in mind as well, I'm actually going to be only going over the main card. So I'm actually not going to be touching base upon the prelims, even though the prelims, don't miss it because it is stacked, right? Literally, Molly McCann, Aaron versus Aaron Blanchfield. Dominic Reyes is literally on the prelims. Ryan Spann is on the prelims, right? Brad Riddell, Renato Macchiano is on the prelims. A lot of good people, right? Karolina Kowalkiewicz is on the prelims as well. There's a lot. City kickboxing is being really hardcore represented here, right? Regardless, with Israel Adesanya being the main event. But yeah, so it's gonna be a good one. So in the background, you can see as well. I'm just gonna be skilling, upgrading some of my trade skills, just that way you guys know that's something that I've been trying to focus on a little bit more. But that being said, let's start off with the first fight of the actual evening, right? So we have Dan Hooker versus Claudio Puelles. This is a tough one. I really, really want to root for my man Dan Hooker, but Claudio is on a 5-fight win streak. I know his last fight was against Clay Guida, right? And Clay Guida is kind of pretty much almost out the door. And he's really just has a lot of momentum on him right now. So I don't know if Dan Hooker can realistically pull this off, especially by the fact that he did lose his last fight against Allen, right? Arnold Allen. But, I mean, he's a stud. Dan Hooker is being represented, right? Coming out of City Kickboxing with also a bunch of his teammates being on the card. One of them obviously being Israel Adesanya. Brad Riddell is on here. So Carlos is on here as well, opening up the card, I'm pretty sure. Carlos Ulberg. So usually when they're all together, we tend to see a win, to be honest. But I'm going to have to count Dan Hooker out on this one. I don't necessarily see this even going the distance realistically as well. I really do see Claudio most likely putting away Dan Hooker, maybe the second or third round. But he has a lot of momentum going for him regardless, so just something I want to point out. And these are all just my opinions about the actual fights themselves. So just take everything with a grain of salt too. Don't base off your actual picks if you are betting online with what I'm going over right now. Just that way you guys know. All right. So that's the opener for the main card itself. And the next one, right? We got Frankie Edgar versus Chris Gutierrez, and it's sad, right? Because I want to root for my man Frankie Edgar. He did also officially say this is his last fight. This is his retirement fight. He is going out the door. He's gonna be going out strong, right? And he is obviously a great contender nonetheless. But he also had his last fight being a tough loss against Marlon Vera, and obviously Marlon Vera, we know he's a contender, possibly fighting for the title next, possibly fighting maybe Sean O'Malley to really unify who will be the number one contender to fight Aljamain Sterling. But Edgar, he's getting up there with age as well, so he hasn't been able to really take a hit like he used to. On the other hand, Gutierrez is younger. He has overall a win as well on his previous last fight. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to go with Chris Gutierrez. I could see this fight going all 3 rounds. So the distance by Chris. So we'll see how that goes. But unfortunately, as much as I do want to see Frankie Edgar win, which he can pull it off, ultimately I do have Chris Gutierrez taking a W on this one too. Now for the people's main event. For some, for me, this is one of the fights I'm absolutely hyped for, to say the least. But Dustin Poirier versus Michael Chandler, right? A lot of hype around this fight itself. Dustin Poirier, literally, he did lose his last fight, right? So just keep that in mind against Charles Oliveira. But still, that's nothing to take off momentum from Dustin, because he can take a hit. His boxing's still there. He's still a contender nonetheless. So he is literally here to stay, and this is a great matchup, I would say, for Michael Chandler, because if Michael Chandler is actually capable of winning this fight, then ultimately this literally puts him right in title contention yet again. So we know Michael Chandler's last fight was a win against Tony Ferguson. He's coming off a huge knockout win, right? But it's going to be a tough one. And for me personally, what I think ultimately Michael Chandler is going to be coming out guns blazing, as he said. Either way, right? He did state this during the pre-fight press conference, right? So he could clip Dustin. I could see Michael Chandler clipping him, but I have a feeling Michael Chandler is going to utilize his wrestling a lot more in this fight, so he doesn't stay standing, and that's something that I think is going to make a difference in this fight. So we'll see how that goes. As much as my heart wants Michael Chandler to win, I do see Dustin Poirier ultimately taking the edge on this one, and I have it by decision. I don't see. It's crazy to think a decision, but I can see a finish coming from realistically either one of them. But I'm gonna go with my gut feeling, and I'm gonna say Dustin Poirier edges it out from Michael Chandler. Could finish him, right? Who knows? His boxing's crazy. He has great wrestling as well. But the only way I do see Michael Chandler winning this is if he does actually ultimately utilize his wrestling more, and also just remains more calm rather than going out guns blazing as he usually does. So we'll see how that ends up turning out. So that's my pick regarding that fight specifically. So I definitely have Dustin Poirier winning for this one here, and he is the betting favorite too. Now for the co-main event, we have Carla Esparza versus Zhang Weili, both coming off a win. So this is definitely something that you'll want to keep an eye on. Definitely, for me, I do want to say it's an easy pick with Zhang Weili being crowned as a new strawweight champion. However, not to take anything away from Carla Esparza, she is always there to grind it out, especially with the wrestling. She's there to stay. She's on a very good momentum, right? She beat Rose Namajunas, even though that was a lackluster of a fight on her previous fight. But Zhang Weili, coming off that spinning back fist knockout from Joanna Jędrzejczyk, is really, really just a huge momentum, and something that I think she wanted for herself as well. And I do ultimately see her pulling it off. So, what is this? Azoth increases chance for attributes, perks. Sure, we'll go ahead and add 15 of that. But, yeah, so I got Zhang Weili taking this fight. I also don't see it going to decision, realistically, unless Carla really utilizes her wrestling. But I think Zhang Weili will actually be able to neutralize that, especially with working with Henry Cejudo so closely. Obviously, a master in wrestling himself as the Olympic champion. But we'll see how this fight plays out. But I do have Zhang Weili, and she is actually, the odds are not actually posted for them, but I wouldn't be surprised if Zhang Weili is the betting favorite. And now for the last fight, right? Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira. So this is a huge one. A lot of momentum with both of them, right? Israel Adesanya is on a huge win streak, right? 15 wins by knockout. He has 5 title defenses. So he's his last win was during International Fight Week with Jared Cannonier. And Alex Pereira, though, he's obviously, ever since he started MMA and came into the UFC, he's been on a 6-fight win streak, with his recent win as well being on International Fight Week against Sean Strickland. Now, this is a tough one for me, realistically, and it's going to be a matter of who puts on the pressure, but also capitalizes on the counters as well, as they're both counter fighters, right? Obviously, Alex Pereira does have the 2 wins over Israel Adesanya from the kickboxing days, right? And obviously, Alex Pereira is an 8-time double champ as well in Glory Kickboxing, and it doesn't get any better than that, realistically, if you think about it. So, my pick, ultimately, I would not be surprised if Alex Pereira catches him with the left hook, but, and I do see Alex Pereira possibly winning this too, with a very high chance, but I do see Israel Adesanya overcoming that you know, mental, psychological warfare that Alex Pereira has been placing on him, right? Because of the wins, and obviously the one of the fights being a knockout itself, knocked him out clean. And I think Israel's gonna ultimately chop down Alex Pereira's legs to keep his momentum lower. And then at that point, it's almost gonna be like a repeat of what happened with Paulo Costa, with Israel really chopping down the legs and then ultimately going up high. So that's what I see happening in this fight. But I could be completely wrong. This is one that I'm just not completely sure of, and I would be really excited to, ultimately see Alex Pereira knock him out too. I wouldn't be too bad. I wouldn't be too sad about that, to be honest. But that's my pick regarding the main event itself, and of course, Israel Adesanya, rightfully so, is the betting favorite in this case. So just keep that in mind as well. But those are my picks, guys. So let me know in the comments below what you think is going to happen, right? I'll be doing a follow-up video as well with the post-fight situation once this night is over. So drop a like, hit that subscribe button, drop your comments below on what you think is going to happen, and also feel free to come back to the actual video itself and, after the fights, and let me know how you did, if you did actually ultimately go ahead and place betting odds on the fighters too. So I'm super excited. Hope you guys have a great night as well watching these fights. So it's been real. It's your boy, the Cash Critic. Peace.